Hi, my name is Jenelle Riley. I'm an editor at Variety. Welcome to today's SAG-AFTRA Conversation at Home with FBI Most Wanted. Today's guest is a Golden Globe and Australian Film Institute Award nominee for his work in the series NipTuck. You've also seen him in Charmed and films like Fantastic Four. Please welcome Julian McMahon. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
First time Zoomer. Thank you for joining us.
Yep, my first Zooming experience. I can now call myself a Zoomer, which is very exciting.
Well, thank you so much for trying out new technology with us. It's primarily SAG actors who watch these conversations. So I always like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card?
How did I get my SAG card? That's an interesting one. That's that's so long ago. It feels like a completely different lifetime. But I think the SAG. I mean, I'm sure things would have changed by now. But I think at the time it was AFTRA, right? AFTRA and SAG were separate. And I think if you got your AFTRA card, which was a daytime card, it was easier to get your SAG card, if I remember correctly. But like I said, this is a while ago. But I think I got my SAG card from. It must have been either from. I think probably a series I did called Profiler in the, what was that, mid-90s or something. I would have gotten a SAG card for that for sure. I definitely have an AFTRA card already. So I'm thinking I got my SAG card in the middle of the 90s for Profile. Let's just go with that.
Well, and you were a regular on that show. So did you do lots of guest spots on American TV before booking that? Or was that like one of your first TV jobs here?
No, that was one of my first TV jobs. I did a soap in New York for a couple of years, and that actually, and at the time when I came to the United States as an actor, the kind of transference wasn't quite the way that it is now. It was a very different world in Australia, and we were a very different type of actor, and the governments were not kind of playing as nicely as they are these days together. I mean, the Australian and the American. And so to get a work permit in this country was, near impossible. They still have the same kind of titles for different things. You had to be an alien of extraordinary ability, which is always a great thing to put on your resume. And you had to prove to them that you were worthy of kind of receiving some kind of permit to work here. And it was not easy. And it took things like long contracts or large contracts. So something like a 3-year contract with a network or a 3-picture deal or something. I remember I got a big movie with Paramount, and I got all these letters from all these great actors and directors and everything. And we went to get the permit, and they said, no, this is not good enough. We don't think that works. So I then kind of, because I wanted to stay in the United States, I thought, okay, how do I kind of go about, getting the work permit and the green card? And so one of the ways was the television contract, and we got that with NBC, and that went from onto the soap and then onto the Profiler show, even though they were separate entities. And I got my green card, and then became a citizen.
Were you ever able to do that Paramount movie, or did they block you from doing it?
I was not allowed to do that movie, no.
You're kidding? That's heartbreaking.
Oh, I know. Well, it certainly was at the time, but, we all have our path to travel, so to speak, and mine was not to do that. And to be honest, I'm happy the way everything's kind of gone down, so it's all good.
What made you want to come to America to work? Was that always the plan, or was it a specific project that brought you out here?
No, I wasn't even really going to be an actor. Being an actor was kind of a very odd kind of choice in the environment with which I grew up in Sydney. And, my family were not supportive at the time. My parents just didn't quite understand what it was that I wanted to go and embark on. And so it was a choice to really kind of come to actually, first of all, it started off as a bit of an accident, to be honest. I started doing work for commercials and some print work. And then I got a movie, which I did with a fantastic actor named Elliot Gould. I don't know if you remember Elliot Gould.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, great actor. If you're watching and you haven't seen Elliot Gould films, look them up. He's a great guy, married to Barbara Streisand for a while, did some fantastic movies in the 70s. including, I think, the original MASH. Is that right?
Yes, he was in the original MASH. I think most people probably know him as Ross and Monica's dad on Friends, but in the 70s, he was in every hit movie.
Yeah, what was that one, the two couples who kind of, what was that one? I can't remember.
Was it Bob and Carol, Ted and Alice?
Yes. Yeah, okay. Yes, exactly. Anyway, he and I did a film together in Australia, and he was very encouraging, and he thought, and I guess saw some talent. And he said, look, you got to go to America, and you got to go there, and you got to stay there, and you can't keep coming back and forth, and you can't whatever. So he had helped me out. He introduced me to some people at Sony and Paramount, and some agents and managers and all that kind of stuff. And I got flown over to the United States through Paramount. And it was just kind of this introduction into the world of Hollywood through this guy that I admired and had become friends with. And so that was kind of the instigators to, me pursuing this career, not just as a kind of, pie in the sky kind of, something to do kind of thing, which it kind of started off as for me, but more as a kind of serious and something that I really wanted to dedicate my time to. So, it was actually a great period of time too, because it was the late 80s, and the late 80s in Hollywood was pretty, it's notorious for being what it was, and it was quite an extraordinary time to be here. So yeah, it's been a great ride.
Now, I had read somewhere that your parents were, as you said, not terribly supportive about this decision, but they came around, didn't they?
Oh, they did. Well, my father, kind of came around, and then he wasn't around too much longer. He passed away kind of early on in that kind of trajectory. But he had supported me, and my mother kind of, once things started to kind of turn in a more kind of, let's say, successful direction, which at that point in time, it was also one of those things. I mean, my parents didn't even understand the business. I don't think, but for anybody who even had any understanding, it was not, hey, can't wait to get my kid into the entertainment business. You know what I mean? It was always the opposite. Just don't go there. Even parents who were in the business were saying, don't go into this business because it's not easy. But no, once once I started to kind of prove, I guess, to my mother that there was a potential for some kind of success in it, I think she actually ended up really kind of enjoying it. So that table was turned.
I think I read somewhere, not that I believe everything I read, but is it true she'd come to the set with you and kind of make fun of you?
Well, no, it wasn't make fun. My mother was very kind of, overbearing and demonstrative and demanding, let's say. And I mean that in the most beautiful ways possible, because I loved her to death. But she couldn't leave the scenario at home behind. So, for example, I remember we were shooting a scene on NipTuck, and I think there were 3 or 4 of us in the scene. It was ridiculous, actually, how hysterical this moment was in my life, because it was so embarrassing. But Mom had come down to set, and we made this chair for her, and Ryan fell in love with my mom, and so he was kind of treated her like the queen bee kind of thing. And she loved it. And I remember I was in the middle of this scene, and everybody's quiet as you're shooting, because that's what you have to do, and you have to hear the audio and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, we're shooting this scene, and I hear, and I'm wondering, there's a moment where I'm thinking to myself, okay, is this a reality, or am I having an out-of-body experience? But I hear my mother going, Julian. And I look around, there she is, and she's in her chair, all uppity in her chair, and she's looking at me with that look like she did when I was a young teenager or something. She said, come over here. And I'm like, all right, cut, let's cut this. So I went over to my mom. She's like, what? She said, you need to straighten that tie or whatever. I can't even remember what it was, but it was something, you need to button up that shirt or something, and I was like, okay, let's button up the shirt now. Can somebody take my mother to craft service so that we can please get through this? It was really funny. You have to ask if you ever speak to like Dylan Walsh. He was there on set at that time, and Ryan was there, and it was a pretty funny moment. Because I can't remember how I was in my mid-30s, but I'm a lead actor in a show, and I'm, it's not very often you get kind of humbled by your mother telling you to straighten your jacket, tighten your tie, or whatever that is. So she did that to me once on the red carpet too, and I was nominated for an award. It was just, one of those things I loved about my mom.
I'm impressed you let her come to the set of NipTuck, considering some of the plot lines on that show.
Yeah, I didn't invite her. No, I did. No, trust me, I made sure it was a very particular scene. In that show, I would only invite guests when it was something I felt like I was comfortable with them watching. Otherwise, a lot of the time we had closed sets on that stuff too. So.
I mean, speaking of NipTuck, you spent 7 seasons on that show, and 7 great seasons. But were you 8?
8, yes.
8 seasons. Oh my gosh! I mean, I love television, and some people love the medium of television. But were you looking to do another series after that when FBI Most Wanted came along?
There was a long period of time between the two, and when I finished NipTuck, I had just finished probably 20 years of consistent work without much of a break, and I'd also done the Fantastic Four movies at the same time, and that was a grueling schedule because, for example, one week would be I'd work on NipTuck from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday. Thursday night I'd be on a plane, and I'd shoot in Vancouver, up in Alaska, or wherever it was, on Fantastic Four, and that would be, Friday, Saturday, Sunday on a plane back to Los Angeles Monday morning, 5 o'clock on set for NipTuck. So that was took a lot out of me. So at the end of that whole kind of thing, I decided to take a break. And then when I decided to go back to work, a lot of the work was happening outside of Los Angeles, and my daughter was going to school in Los Angeles, and I realized every time I kind of left to go and do these things, it wasn't most beneficial for her. So I decided that I had to stay in LA if I was going to work, and so that's what I did. Then she took off to college, and it was a bit of a kind of a rebirthy type moment for me where I could actually kind of really concentrate on what it was that I wanted to do. I was interested in network television simply because I'd done a lot of cable television before, and I really was interested in kind of the dramatics of what I really like performing and dramatizing. And I thought it might be interesting to kind of fit that under more confined or restricted kind of restraints. Or constraints. So, in the cable world, you can kind of go out and do whatever you want. You can say whatever you want, all this kind of stuff. But I really was interested in trying to create that drama without all of that other stuff, without the ability to kind of put all that other stuff on screen. And so I had, had some meetings, and I had struck up a really good relationship with the guys over at CBS. And we were interested in working together, and we were just kind of going through scripts and working out, kind of figuring out. There were a few that I liked, but as soon as I got this one, there's some scripts that you read and you kind of there's something that draws you to them that you can't even kind of help, if that makes sense. You can't, it's just kind of nothing you can do about it. And this was one of those, and it was just, it touched on so many things for me, and that was this guy who was, I look at, this guy, Jess, he's battling all the time. He's certainly battling to find these bad guys and right wrongs and hunt people down who have done bad things like that. But he's battling all these other things, and that is the trying to raise his daughter without her mother, who passed in Afghanistan, having his own kind of demons to battle with, trying to be a parent as a mother and a father, and trying to kind of amalgamate that whole thing into the work that he feels like he almost. I don't think Jess can live without his work. He's one of those guys that just it's not just a fuel for him; it's a necessity. So it really kind of spoke to me in a lot of different ways, and so when something like that comes along, it's hard to say no.
I mean, and if you're going to do network TV, I mean, working with Dick Wolf has to be, I mean, it doesn't get better than that, I have to imagine.
Well, look, the initial thing was for me, I thought, good, great, it's a Dick Wolf thing. There's potentially, the potential is enormous with him, you know what I mean? But then I got to meet the guy, and then I just, you're just kind of all in once you get to sit down and converse with him, because, he's an iconic marksman of this business, and he's created so much for us to, sure, you can look at it as the television business, but you have to think of it in regards to entertainment. And he has to be one of the greatest entertainers ever to have graced, the screen, the big screen, the small screen, the theater, the circus, the whatever. This guy, just has offered so much. And then you get to hang with him, and he's just such a great guy, and he's ridiculously conversive and fun to be around. And I was also looking for an environment that, the set environment is a tough one to live in all the time. And what I was trying to find was an environment that was most conducive to the least amount of stress, the most amount of fun, concentration on doing good work, good people, and I mean good-hearted people, not just good business people. I mean good people who care about each other and want to do good work together. And him and I had long conversations about that, and it was really important to him as well. I mean, I think he's at a place where he wants things to go, but he also wants them to, he doesn't want the stress of some of the stuff that can come along with this business. What's the point? You know what I mean? And so we kind of had a real meeting of the minds of what it was we were both trying to accomplish. And I gave him a guarantee of what I felt like I could offer. And he told me what he kind of was looking for, and I told him what I wanted to kind of inject into the show and what I wanted to get out of it. And he was very supportive of that. And so we kind of just took off from there.
I'm kind of surprised you guys had never met before, because I know so many people who owe their first job to Dick Wolf, all of the Law and Orders. That's how everyone I know got their SAG cards. But it seems like such a perfect combination.
Well, it's interesting because I've kind of had watched his shows for so long that I thought I knew him. And I remember going to the meeting, and it's Dick Wolf, so he's the man, and I remember everybody said, oh, it's Dick and this and that, and there were phone calls and whatever is about, and I was like, yeah, I got it, it's cool, don't worry. And I remember going into the office and seeing all the work along the wall of his building at Universal. And then all of a sudden I went, hang on a second, it's Dick Wolf. It's not, I'm not going to meet Joe Schmo here. This is actually, and it kind of didn't hit me until I got there. I was like, oh, hold on a second. I'm going to meet the big guy. Yeah, it was pretty funny because, you do a lot of these meetings throughout your career, and you kind of get used to them and whatever else. But I remember kind of taking a moment where I thought, okay, take a breath.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of, I think, about excitement, because like that whole Law and Order series, the initial one, for example, was a big thing for me when I came to the United States because, I was a young kid who was up all night, looking for things to do. And, it was either shopping on the shopping network or watching Law and Order. And most of the time I, was trying not to, buy another pair of, blue block sunglasses or something or whatever it was, And so, I watched, repetitively that show just consistently. So, it's not just a part of television. For me, it's a part of my kind of growing upness.
Absolutely. And something that his shows are always great with, and actually most of the things you've been involved with, they always have these great ensembles. And you have an amazing cast here. It's so great seeing Keisha Castle Hughes. You have Kellen Lutz, even your guest stars. The pilot, you had Henry Thomas.
Hmm.
I mean, who actually I briefly thought was Dylan Walsh for a second. I thought you guys had done a reunion, and then I realized it was Henry Thomas.
Well, I'm hoping on a reunion with Dylan and I.
Really, that would be amazing.
Would that be fun?
Could he play a killer?
Yeah, well, like he could. I was trying to think of something where we could spend more than just one episode together. So I was trying to see if there was anything, I got to talk to Renee about it, but anything that might kind of go over from one episode to the next or something. But anyway, we'll keep working on that, and hopefully I'll try to make that happen next season. What were we talking about before?
Ensembles.
The ensemble. Yeah. Firstly, whoa, what a cast I have. I mean, they're unbelievable. As you said, Keisha nominated for Oscar at, how old was she? 13, 14 or something.
Yeah.
Kellen, Roxy, Nathaniel. These are all really talented group of people. And we're kind of like a bit of a family. I mean, I know it looks like that. I feel like that looks like that on set, and I certainly know that people comment on how much we kind of look like and feel like this kind of family group. And the reality is that's how we are. It's 5 of us, and we're 5 of us on the road. So you got to do something, when you're spending that amount of time together. I also think it comes from the desire to do good work, and that is that we're all trying to push each other, I guess, in a way of really trying to put down good work whenever the camera's pointed at you. And that's really important, particularly in a TV series, because a TV series, the environment is so grueling and it's so much work that there's, just because of how exhausted you may be, there's an ability to kind of, drop off a little bit or kind of, take it easy a little bit. And I'm not trying to say that we're, whipping each other to do their job or anything, but it's fun to be able to just concentrate on your work and put down as good work. Every episode, every scene, we're all challenging each other to do really good work. And this is a talented group. I mean, Keisha, you mentioned, she is a super talented actress. And when you watch her on set, she has these chunks that come in, on the script, and they're like this long. And I look at them and I go, oh, I almost can't even talk about them because I don't want to put her off in any way, and it just is fantastic. And she has the director will come in with a note and she'll just adjust like on a whim. It's unbelievable. And Kellen and everybody gets their own, Nathaniel, Roxy, everybody gets their own episode where they really get to concentrate on their character. And it just, the kind of commitment that everybody has to throwing themselves into those pieces has been really admirable. And so it's been a real, I mean, I don't cast these things, you know what I mean? And you don't even know what people are like when you've cast them. You never know what people are like until you spend that much time with them. Couldn't ask for a better group. I could not ask for a better group of people.
I mean, it is a gamble because if there's someone on set who, isn't of the same mindset, it can be long days.
Long days. And, when you're challenging, as you say, different mindset, and that's a nice way to put it. When that's being challenged consistently, it is a struggle, let me tell you. And I know it because I've done it. And it is, it's hard enough doing the work, let alone kind of having to, as you say, be challenged by that kind of thing. So to be able to enjoy our work, commit to our work, have some fun, enjoy each other's company, have great conversations with each other. We set up a gym out the back of one of the sets that we have. We're on the road a lot because it's a road show kind of thing. So, we get to spend a lot of time. I started this Instagram file called the FBI Most Wanted Green Room Files. And it's because we have the most bizarre green rooms that you could ever, you can't even call them green rooms really, right? So the green room is, if anybody's watching, is not in this business, is where people wait while they're, waiting for the setup for the next shot or whatever that is. And usually it consists of a room with a couch and, something over there, maybe a fridge and some goodies or whatever. This is, our green room is literally, we had one of the green rooms was a closet in the back of a supermarket. We've had the fire kind of area of Roxy and I took a great picture of Roxy and I with the fire hydrants, and we're literally snuck in this little thing with our chairs and we're kind of sitting back there. In the back of people's houses, because obviously you go to some pretty odd places when you're following these types of criminals, so you can find yourself in some interesting places. And then some of them are just out in the woods in the middle of nowhere.
You don't have trailers, or they can't travel?
We do, but a lot of the time you can't, so if your set's here, a lot of the time the base camp will be 20 minutes away because we're off in the woods or the house is somewhere remote or you can't set up a base camp nearby. So a lot of the time, with a show like this, you're shooting it's almost every 20 minutes, right? Wow. So every setup goes for 20 minutes. If you're going 40 minutes on this show, you're that's a long turnaround or a long adjustment. Some of the turnarounds maybe, but not really. You just got too much work to do. And we're there 13 hours a day, and we do not stop working except for lunch from the moment you get there till the moment you go home. Going back to the trailer, I mean, when we're on set, we go to set twice out of 8 days. So 6 days we're out, 2 days we're in. And those 2 days we have our set room or whatever you want to call that. But even then it's still, you don't have much time to, we're not sitting around playing video games or watching TV, I can tell you that much.
Is it?
By the way, I love working. The time in my trailer, I'm always like, what am I doing?
Is it difficult because you are dealing with such heavy topics and because your character, has experienced a lot of trauma? Are you able to sort of shake that off at the end of the day when you go home, or do you find like when you're shooting sometimes you sort of carry that home with you?
A bit of both. I definitely, when I was contemplating taking the part, I thought, how do I manage that scenario? And I was very conscious going into it that I wanted to find a way to be able to leave it behind so that when I went home without that luggage or baggage. And so what I did is you do a read through, you get the concept, the overall concept of it. I put a lot of work into my script. So I spent a lot of time breaking them down and interpreting them and kind of defining what it is I'm trying to accomplish and all these kind of actory type things, which I love doing, by the way. But what I realized was that if I could, and it actually works with the schedule quite well too, but if you could define each scene unto itself, right? Without any peripheral overview of the whole thing. You just perform the scene for what it is, knowing where you're going and coming from, all that kind of stuff, obviously. Then you could kind of piece it up where it wasn't so toxic or so difficult or so kind of dark. You know what I mean? So each scene could be played unto itself, and the overriding arc of it, which is kind of a horrible thing, happens on its own. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Before we go, I want to remind everyone to look in the comments for information on SAG-AFTRA Foundation's COVID-19 Relief Fund. And I just I'm sort of asking people, how are you handling this quarantine? What's keeping you occupied?
Well, when I first started, it was at a point where we were at 15 and a half episodes into a 16 episode season. So I was kind of prepping myself for a bit of a break, and a much needed break. So in a way it came at a time where I needed to kind of just sit down and not be able to do anything. And since then it's evolved, but I have my family here, my daughter and my wife and my 3 dogs. And I got to tell you, if you can look at it without denying how devastating and horrific the whole thing has been and how fear-driven the whole thing has been, there's been some extraordinary moments that I've had with my family, and ones that I probably won't get the opportunity to experience again because, I'm hoping, touch wood, of course, that we don't get forced into this kind of thing again. But I really have tried to take the positive out of it, and that is, spend time with my family, have some quiet time. I spent a lot of time conversing with my daughter, who would normally be at college at this point in time, and she's talking to her college mate. She doesn't need to talk to her dad. So we've kind of rekindled a relationship that kind of was on its way wherever it was on its way to, and that's life. You go with it. But to have this opportunity to spend time together has been quite beautiful. And then the other thing is, I find myself, I FaceTime people instead of call them now. So and I'm actually seeing people a lot more than I did without it, which is really weird when you think about it. But, I'm calling all my friends in Australia, my family in Australia, and, I'm FaceTiming people. And I got a text last night to do a Zoom thing with a bunch of friends of mine, and we're all going to, kind of get together and hang out and whatever. And I also think that this is, at once again, as horrific as all the effects of this thing are, there is a moment of pause that I feel has been almost driven by Mother Nature herself to a certain extent, and it's in a way it's our own time out to kind of reflect on our effect on each other, and probably and hopefully kind of not on each other, and also on the planet, and hopefully just move forward consciously with each other, So I don't know. There's definitely time for a lot of contemplation, but I think if you can try to find the positive side out of it, hopefully we'll be leaving this more kind of sympathetic towards one another and what we do every day. I mean, how many people are going to go back to work and go, "Oh, thank God I'm going back." You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, and maybe inside of that is being gracious for what we have. And I'm hoping that even just for me, I'm hoping that there's some kind of enlightened consciousness that I can get out of this whole experience.
Have you seen the photos of LA without smog?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Pictures of pictures of apparently in India, it's the first time I could see the Himalayas for like 60 years or something. And then apparently they can see fish in the river in Venice. And, like you said, LA, my friends are calling me saying, "I can see everything." I kind of want to go to LA just to kind of look at it right now, because it must be quite extraordinary. And things all around the world. It's also those beautiful things that you saw of all the Italians kind of singing to each other in wherever that was, and there's been some extraordinary camaraderie here in a time that has been quite fearful and devastating.
Truly, no, it's been really beautiful in places. I'm so honored that we got to be your first Zoom ever.
Oh,
you can let your friends know that you're an expert now.
Zoomer forever.
Were you able to complete the season, or were you not able to do that 16th episode?
We finished. It was just a pretty clear-cut call of it, and I think it was, I can't remember who did that. Was it CBS or whatever? But anyway. And it was just, we're finished, and it was, the only kind of thing that I wanted to do was finish the scene that we're in the middle of, because I knew it was going to be devastating news for everybody. So we finished the scene we were shooting, and we told everybody. It was a difficult time. It was a difficult thing to kind of impose on everybody, because, a lot of those people go from paycheck to paycheck, and a lot of those people are wondering what their next move is going to be and where the next job is going to come from. So it was a tough call, and it was also a tough thing to have to say goodbye to everybody under those kind of circumstances. But hopefully we'll get things right, and in the near future we'll be moving forward, and we'll all be back to work together.
Well, I can't wait to see where the show goes. I've really enjoyed it so far. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you.
And remind everyone to watch FBI Most Wanted on CBS. You can also get CBS All Access, which is where I've been watching it. It's a great app. It takes out all the commercials. Thank you so much, and have a great day.